All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Negotiate Like a Pro, offered by the Oregon State University Alumni Association in partnership with Oregon State's Professional and Continuing Education Unit. I'm Paula Matano, Program Manager in our Professional and Continuing Ed. We call ourselves PACE, and we're also joined by Yuliya Dennis from the Alumni Association, who we'll hear more from shortly. Welcome, Yuliya. So before we dive in, I'm just going to briefly share our agenda. As I said, I work for Professional and Continuing Education, and we are the non-credit arm of the university. So we partner with colleges across campus to offer open enrollment classes to the public on subjects ranging from business to beer to wood science. And PACE is excited to continue our partnership with Yuliya Dennis from the Alumni Association on the series of career webinars. And I'm sure some of you have joined us for the previous ones, and we're looking forward to today's. We're going to do the presentation on negotiation strategies and do follow-up. You are encouraged to ask questions throughout the webinar. At the end of the class, we're going to do just a brief overview of the PACE course that we're offering for negotiation, as well as contacts and any additional follow-up questions that you may have at that time. So without further ado, please, Yuliya, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much. It's been really great to work with PACE on these webinars. I'm really excited to be presenting on this really great topic of negotiation. I'm honored to be presenting here, and I've seen some really high impact from all of any work that I've done individually with people on negotiations. I've seen some really high impact for people. So I love the idea of being able to spread this knowledge to a wider audience. So thank you so much for attending, and I'm really grateful for Paula and the PACE team for letting us do this series and bringing this information to you. All right, so the session is being recorded, and do please use the chat box to ask questions anytime. We will be addressing questions throughout the webinar, and we'll send you a link to the presentation after it's been put into a YouTube video. And so do feel free to ask questions, and we want this to be a very interactive webinar. All right, so my name is Yuliya Dennis, and I'm part of the OSU Alumni Association, and we offer alumni career services to our alumni and people who are engaged with the university. We do a lot of different things, including resume reviews, so we do offer free resume reviews. So if you have a resume and you'd like to send it to me, feel free to send it to me for a review. I also do consultations, and we do a variety of online and in-person events. And really, I'm here to help boost your career and whatever it is that you want to do with your career, whether it be giving back, whether it be growing your own skills, or something like this with salary negotiation or job searching, whatever it is. I'm really here to help you navigate that. So do reach out. I love what I do, and I love to help people. So don't hesitate to contact me if you have questions or something I can help you with. About this webinar, we're going to look at how to negotiate your salary. We're going to look at some key negotiation principles and look at some best practices for asking for what you want. And I want to start off by reiterating just how important this topic is. So I'm very excited and eager to share with you the information that I've put together. I've done a lot of research by talking to people who teach salary negotiation skills, people who help people as like a recruiting agent, who help people negotiate salaries, and also doing a lot of just like best practice research to prepare for this. Something too that I want to share with everyone is that it is really important that everyone negotiates their salary, and there was a survey done by salary.com that only 32% have ever negotiated their salary, 18% of people never do, and 44% have never brought up the subject of a raise while they've had a position. And what's really, really surprising, or not surprising, but what's really, really important is that I really, really stress that women negotiate their salary. So unfortunately, only about 7% of women negotiate their first salary, and about 57% of men do. And those that did negotiate their salary were, generally speaking, able to increase their salary by 7% or more. Just to give you a sense of what that means is that if you don't negotiate that first salary, so only 77% of women did that. If you don't negotiate your salary, it's going to take you 8 more years of work to make up that difference. So it seems small, it seems like a small thing, but it's huge. It's really huge. So negotiate. All right, do it. So you do not get what you don't ask for. And one thing that I tell people is that if you don't negotiate for something, then the answer is no. And the person that's saying no to you is your own self. So I encourage you, always negotiate. Never let yourself say no to you. It does take courage. It is uncomfortable at first. But really, if we think about the most important things in life, a lot of them are uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean they're not worthwhile. And think about this as a business transaction. That's all it is. It's a business transaction, and it's, you know, if you're worried about not doing it for yourself, then think about doing it for your future self, or your family, or the future life that you want to have. But do it. And if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. So do negotiate your salary. Okay, some few key principles to think about. One is when you do get an offer, so the negotiation starts at the time of an offer. So until there is an offer in place, until someone says this job is yours, there's nothing to negotiate. And so when you do get an offer, always say, thank you for the offer. I really appreciate this. I need to think about it. Can I get back to you in blank days? Always take a day or two to consider. I would say it's important not to say yes right away. Whatever it is that they're offering, even if you're super excited and you're like, this is perfect, like still take a day or two to think about it. And don't reply right away. And don't talk about numbers until there is an offer. So if they say things like, you know, what are you currently making, and can we talk about the salary right now before there's an offer, just say, I don't have enough information yet. I need to think about it, but the best time to negotiate is after an initial offer has been made. And then do you have a number where you're willing to walk away from? So there's going to be some number for you that is going to be like, here's what I can live on. And it is okay to walk away from offers. Let's see. And then confidence, we'll talk more about confidence, but you do have the right to ask, and that it's important that you consider that as the natural process of negotiating an offer and getting a new position.
So we do have a question, or a couple questions that have come in, and I think that they're similar. So what do you do when it's asked in the application your salary expectation? And similarly, what if they ask for your salary within your initial application? So yeah,
and I've researched these questions a lot. So what I've read that has been recommended and that I've heard recommended is you put either like NA, or you put in like $1, or you put something in, and then you just say like, I don't have enough information. Like if they ask and press for you, just say, I need to know more about this position. So I need to know more about the responsibilities and what this role entails before I can make a decision. And then if they say, well, I really need to know how much you make, you can say, you know, my current position involves, you know, lots of various aspects that could be similar to this role, but it's significantly different enough where I want to know more about this position. Like this is a different thing. And so I really want to know more. And until there's an offer, there's really nothing to talk about with regards to how much I would be making in this new role.
Yeah, and we did have somebody come in with a comment of there isn't a new law that doesn't allow employers to ask that is state specific. So that's passed in Oregon. But I would also recommend doing your research about
Absolutely.
What's legally allowed for that employer to ask as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Great questions. I'm loving this. So knowing your needs, especially if you're moving to a new place, do research living expenses in a place and know what is the lowest salary that you need. Another thing to consider is looking at tax brackets. So sometimes a salary might be, you know, 5% higher, but it puts you in a new tax bracket, and your tax income is much higher now. And so looking at like, okay, does this push me over to a new bracket? That's something just to think about. And then do identify what is your, so with that living expense, what is your personal minimum? And this would be your walkaway point. Some other things to consider with this is knowing your own career needs. So does the position fit well with your strengths, your values? And sometimes it is more than just about the money. Sometimes smaller pay is worth it. So depending on your needs, whether it be your professional, your personal values, whatever, those might dictate. And I have worked with people who specifically take a lower paying job because if it's better with the mission and the vision and lifestyle they want to live. So those are some things to think about. But this is really your reflection time to think, okay, what do I want? And how important is the salary to me? And what am I willing to compromise on for this? Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. These are big questions. So answering the questions, what are your salary expectations and how much are you making? These are big questions. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to gauge the least offer they can give to you, and they want to pay you the least amount possible to get and to get the best, highest experience. So avoid answering the questions. And I love that someone talked about the new law. So as much as possible, don't disclose, and that's a really common mistake to give away what you're currently making. Get them to make you the offer and deflective ask. So like I said earlier, say, I still need to learn more, it's too soon to know, I need to know what the responsibilities are, I don't know yet enough about the role. And then if they ask you, again, you can say, I'd rather not discuss it right now. This is, I'm really exploring this position right now, and I don't have enough information to answer these questions. All right. So then, and actually, there's a question here. It looks like that's pretty relevant.
So, sorry. What if an employer already knows what you're making because you're applying for a new job at the same organization?
Yeah, that's a good one. So in that case, then that becomes unavoidable. The other case where this is true is places where your salary is public. So, for example, like if you're working for a public institution or something that it becomes public, you still want to negotiate. So unfortunately, I have seen cases where people are offered much less based on what they're currently making because people know. And in that case, so the things I'm going to talk about later on become even more important to stress as you're negotiating. And you're still, what you're trying to do is you're trying to separate what you previously made and the things that you were previously doing, separating that to what your new responsibilities are. So like if you're going to have a different set of responsibilities, and the research shows that responsibility comes with this kind of a pay, then that's something that you'll want to negotiate for, and try not to limit it based on what you previously made. That's a really great question.
Yeah, and is there a risk that you'll be perceived as difficult or not agreeable if you deflect on those types of questions? Kind of like what you were saying, is that a risk for somebody in an interview?
So I would say with any of these things, there's always a risk depending on the person interviewing. I think that the higher risk is for you not to negotiate and for you to have a lower paying job. So the other thing is that when you deflect, and especially if you're saying like, I just need to know more information, they can't really fault you for needing more information because that's an important thing. So an interview is a two-way process. But with regards to talking about the actual number, so you won't talk about the actual number until there's an offer. And there's nothing wrong with saying, once there's an offer, then I'm sure we can come up with a good, reasonable pay once there's an offer on the table. And once there's an offer on the table, then you're in control. And that's actually one of the few times you're in control. You're in control about your pay. So when they want you and you're like, here's what I want, like that's the point where the power is in your hands to ask for more.
Great.
All right, we'll do a couple more, we'll go over a couple more points and then we'll address more questions. And I see that some of the questions actually tie very well with what I'm going to share next. So I've heard a lot of mixed things about ranges, but the best advice that I've heard from people who teach this stuff regularly to people, especially those populations that typically don't negotiate, is do you always give a range? And Glassdoor.com is a great resource for finding your position title, your area, and the experience range. And what I've heard recommended is that when you do give an offer, so make sure it's about your experience. So don't talk about personal things like, you know, I have a mortgage, I have kids, I have this and that. Reference your experience. And it's about the market value for the role. This is where Glassdoor is a great resource. And I've used it to see various positions, and they have a really good sense of what a position should pay. The other one is Pay Scale. So it's another great online resource. And what I've heard recommended is to give a specific range. So starting with the median, and you can do up to 20% of the median. So the median is the low point is 50% are making more and 50% are making less. And so ideally, you would start your position, if you have some years of experience, at the median level. But do be realistic. So for your position, your area, your experience, what is a realistic number? I have worked with people in cases where their number was just completely unrealistic. What they wanted is just not a typical range at all. For at that point, it was going to be their entry-level position. And so researching through Glassdoor or Pay Scale can give you a sense of, okay, what is a good number for the kind of role that I'm looking at?
So we have a few more questions that we'll address now. So how should we know when we should stop negotiation to avoid awkward situations?
Yeah, I would say from helping people through this and from research, I would say the best practice is that they make an offer and then you counter offer with the salary and then they give you something. You can, in those cases, if it's still low, you can say, you know, is there any wiggle room in that, and see if they can come back with more. But you don't want to do it too many times because they do have budgets, and sometimes they really can't give you more than what they're giving. So yeah, there is a happy median, and you don't want to be asking, you know, 4 times or more for a higher salary.
Great. And then somebody says that they've heard advice that you should always be the first to put an offer on the table because this sets the negotiation. This sets the negotiation point. You agree, or?
Yeah. So I was just actually this morning reading something that said that you should be that they recommend being the first to offer. But in talking to people who are really looking at it from the perspective of the person negotiating versus the company, they recommend that you let them give you an offer first, because you might be underselling yourself. So it's more likely that you might give a lower number than what they're willing to, and just see what is it that they're willing to offer you. So I've seen it work best when people let the company make that first initial offer to you.
Great, thank you. We're going to go through a few more points here, and then we'll come back to questions. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm loving the questions.
Yeah, keep them up.
And like I said, this is a really huge topic, so I'm really happy to keep talking and discussing the questions. So experience and what you bring. It's about your experience, it's not about your personal needs. And so while you may have a minimum point that is based on your personal needs, when you're actually negotiating, the things you tell them and talk about are based on your ideas, what you bring, what you've done in the past, what you're eager to do for them. And take a deep breath and say, research shows people with experience make this much. And so be upfront about that, and then share your enthusiasm. But one thing too is that at this point, especially, let's say you have an initial offer and you're doing your initial counter offer. Be enthusiastic, but don't be 100% committed. So don't be like, I definitely want this, and I'm definitely going to say yes, but I'm hoping for this much. Say something like, I'm excited about the offer. This is really great. Based on my research, people with experience make this much, and I was looking for a salary that's closer to this range. Can we explore that as a potential offer? I'd love to keep talking about the position and what I'm bringing and what you need. I'd love to just talk about this salary range. So So yeah, be eager, but not like, yes, I'm going to say yes. And then they know that like, it doesn't really matter what we pay them. Like they're going to say yes anyway.
Great. We've had somebody ask, when is the appropriate time to bring up that you have a family?
So personal things, I would say is you wouldn't want to bring up personal things. During the interview process. So, like for example, I was just this morning helping someone do an interview prep, and they're going to be having a baby soon, and they're interviewing, and so they asked like, when do I talk about having a baby? Really, once an offer is made, and if there's something that is going to alter your start date or do something with, then you can talk about like, oh, I'm not able to start until this time or whatever. But really, personal things it's best not to talk about them in the negotiation or the interview process.
Great, thank you. So we had somebody who had some confusion about the tax bracket comment, and I think, Yuliya, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just wanting to double check and make sure there are sort of categories that you may fit into. So you want to really look at what your take-home pay is going to be,
yep.
Not just what the gross salary that's being offered. So that's it's just something to take into consideration, is what I understood. Okay.
Yeah, and in some cases it'll make no impact, in some cases it will. The other thing is, like, you know, if you have a partner or a spouse and they're also job searching, or if you know, just keeping in mind what like your take home would be. There's no really like right or wrong answers for this. It's just something to keep in mind as you're doing your research on what your take home will be.
Great, thank you guys. Keep the questions coming.
Okay, so the actual negotiation process itself. Be confident that you have the right to ask, and you can do the negotiation via phone or email. Both can work. Phone could be a more recommended, just because then it's more of a conversation, and then you can share that enthusiasm and say like, yeah, I am very enthusiastic about the position. Here's what here's what research shows people with my experience make, etc. It's okay to have a few notes, and in fact, I recommend that you have a couple notes with you. It's okay to pause and think things over. It's okay to say, you know, thank you for the information. Can I think about it, call you back, etc. It's okay to take a little bit of time with things. And do review what you bring to them and your experience and your expertise. And this is what the negotiation is about. It's about your experience and expertise. And then generally, the recommendation is not to take less than what you're currently making, although that's not always the case. So in some cases, especially if you're doing a huge industry shift and you are starting at a lower position with the intention to work up, that's fine too. Or if you're doing an industry shift where, like, maybe for values reasons, you're doing like nonprofit work, or etc., like in that case, you might have a lower take-home pay. But in general, it's recommended that you don't accept an offer that's less than what you're currently making. And then practice. So practice talking out loud about salaries, about your salary statement. Practice with someone or in front of the mirror and speak out loud the things that you're wanting to say, and become familiar with talking about money. Many times we don't talk about money unless it's with a significant other or someone within our family, and we just don't have a culture that regularly has this as part of our conversations. And so it can take a while, and it can feel uncomfortable at first, and that practice can help you feel more at ease with that. All right, so this is again another reminder to keep in mind that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate, and I encourage you to negotiate. So if there's anything that is a takeaway from this webinar, it's that you should negotiate, and that even if they say no, that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that the pay you're getting is in line with your experience and the position and the new position that you're taking on. So future raises, I really wanted to talk about this because sometimes the salary that they offer you is going to be not your optimum salary, or you did really want something more. And so once they make a counter offer, you can ask for a potential 60 to 90-day review for salary adjustments and ask about future raises. So something about future raises is that it is encouraged that you do ask for a raise, especially around the time of your annual review. And again, even if the answer is no, we can't, or oh, everyone gets the same raise, it's still important to bring that up so that you're doing your due diligence and speaking up on your behalf. And so for asking for future raises, especially around the annual review time, here's some pointers for you. One is to ask on a Thursday morning. It's been identified as the best time to ask for a raise. Meet with your supervisor and say, I want to talk about my performance, and ideally you would want to do this before around your annual review, and prepare a one-sheet accomplishment summary that focuses on what you did and the things that you're contributing that are moving the organization forward in the goals that they have. And so this is the time for you to do like some of your focus points on like, here's what I've done in the past, and then here's what I'm working on in the future. And I'd like to and say like, I'd like to get a raise that better fits with the things that I've contributed to the organization.
So I do have a question following up on this. Is there advice on negotiating that salary increase if you received an offer elsewhere?
Yeah, definitely. So this is, I'm gonna make an assumption that you already have a position somewhere and you have an offer elsewhere and you want to use that offer to negotiate at your current place. So definitely that's a great opportunity to do that. And sometimes people do that if they want to stay at their current place and they want to hire a raise. There's not always guarantees that it'll happen. It's definitely a strategy that's worth doing, but in some cases it doesn't impact what the person is making, and they're not able to increase it. But if you're doing strong work and they want to keep you, they may be able to offer you that higher salary to keep you around. So definitely that could be a successful strategy for sure. And so if you think about the negotiations, a step process, so you have the initial offer the company makes, you counter offer, they give you a new offer, then you say, is there any room for more if you're not satisfied with the initial offer? And once they say no, like this is our best offer, that's your opportunity to negotiate other benefits. So things like days to work from home, or getting some of your phone bill paid, or vacation benefits. Things like technology, so maybe a new computer or iPad or something. Conferences and professional development, that's a huge one. You can see if there's opportunities for them to pay for some of those things. Moving expenses, so if you're moving across country or if you're moving far away in order to take on this new role, definitely ask about that. Other things to consider is insurance, tuition, retirement, so do they offer tuition for courses that you might take, etc. And these are all big benefits because you can actually substantially increase your salary with these things. And one person that I helped negotiate, this was a private sector job, but they typically offered people 2 weeks of vacation, and then with some time there, you then would be allowed to have 3 weeks of vacation. And she was able to negotiate that she started off with those 3 weeks of vacation. So that's huge. Like that's a huge bonus, not just for her work-life balance, but also for her financially. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and definitely like preparing that and working that out with your with the hiring manager. That would be a great thing to do before you do the final signing off on the offer. And then confidence. So I'm hitting this point pretty hard multiple times just because we do get nervous talking about things like salaries, and you do have the right to ask. And I just want to reiterate that it's very important to ask, and that you don't say no to yourself by not bringing it up. And so I hope that you become part of the percentage of people who does always, under all circumstances, negotiate their salary. All right, for the summary, so do your research. So whether it be what are your minimum needs, what is the typical salary for your position, et cetera, and know what those needs are so that you can make a smart decision about, is this the right offer, and how much am I willing to negotiate, and what's the minimum that I'm willing to accept. And it's not really about you personally. It's about your role, your experience, what you're bringing to them. And this really is more of a business transaction. So it's not something that is really about your worth as a human being. It's about the company and how you're contributing to them, and your experience, and being able to achieve whatever it is that's their mission. And always negotiate. Don't say no to yourself. And then do negotiate for those other benefits. Those other benefits can definitely add up, and you can increase your salary by quite a bit just with the professional development, the vacations, etc. And in thinking ahead, those are really great ways to have just a really strong work-life balance, and etc. So for some next steps, I encourage you, if you're OSU alumni, if you're a student or staff or faculty, you can join the OSU Beaver Careers LinkedIn group, and we do a variety of different kind of events that I post on there, and we have resources that you can check out there. And I do career consultations. If you'd like to get a free career consultation, you can message me or email me one takeaway from the webinar, and you can get entered to win a consultation. And I've done this with every one of my webinars, and we've always had a winner or two who gets to do that consultation. And so it's a really great service, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you potentially through that. I do hope you join us for the next webinar. We're going to be talking about preparing for retirement. And retirement is, again, another one of those topics, just like salary negotiation. It's a really big one. It's good to think ahead. It's good to have really strong resources and understanding of how to prepare. And it's never too early or too late to start thinking about it. So I encourage you to join us on Wednesday, June 6th at noon. And we're going to have Bob Poole, who's an OSU alum, share about tips and advice on how to do this well. We've been practicing a lot. He's really great. I'm really excited to bring that webinar to you. And do contact me to follow up. If you're in the midst of a salary negotiation and you need a confidence boost, or if you just want to talk through some strategies, I'm happy to help along with that. And also, if you, especially for those of you who are part of the OSU alumni community, like, I'm really here to help you with your career success and your career goals, whatever those might be. So whether it be being successful in your current role, or whether it be transitioning or moving up or moving industries, whatever it is, I'm eager and excited to help you. So reach out and we can schedule an appointment, or we can do a resume review, or whatever it is that you need help with.
Well, thank you so much, Yuliya. That was very helpful. I know I've been in situations where I know I need to negotiate and I just feel like stumbling. I don't have that confidence in walking in. So any tips and tricks that I can get have always been very helpful. And I am also excited to announce that OSU alumni receive 15% off of any professional and continuing education course. And the reason I'm excited is because we are actually offering a class on negotiation strategies that is 100% online. So if you're interested in what Yuliya just presented and you're thinking that maybe you'd like to dive a little bit deeper, I would really encourage you to check out the class content. So we're actually excited that we get to partner with the College of Business here on campus to offer this negotiation strategies class and pull from their own pool of professionals and to be able to provide this information. So we've created this to help you align your own personal style with the most effective negotiation strategy, which is a lot of the techniques that you were talking about today. So thank you again, Yuliya. So on behalf of PACE and the Alumni Association, we thank you again for your time. I encourage you to reach out to both Yuliya or myself if you have any questions. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and go Beavs.